Confetti Club, it is Pixie, and we are back in the studio for the third and final cosplay studio work vlog on Fallaloo. It is time for the home stretch, the con crunch, if you will. However, this year, no one is going to get crunched, okay? Under the crunch.
Who don't want it? Oops. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh no!
Oops. Uh-oh.
Undo, undo.
I'm going to be the one doing the crunching in a positive way, okay? So let's jump right into it and pick up where we left off on the skirt. So we've mocked it up and figured out the lengths, which told me how much fabric I needed to order, and I placed an order from a site called 1 Yard. I only got 1 yard each, haha, of the 4 colors of lurex that I needed, and I was so happy with the fabric. I think it is the perfect weight, the perfect shine. I really put like a dumb amount of time into researching, trying to find the perfect fabric for this, so I'm so happy that it turned out so great. This cosplay is like 90% ruffles, and it looks so great when ruffled. However, I will insert a little complaint here that I had like one of the worst customer service experiences I've ever had with 1 Yard. And I am really not one to complain, but okay, listen to this. So I got 1 yard of each color, and they were all the exact same fabric, but the yellow lurex came with big blobs of heat damage on multiple parts of the fabric. Like big melty circles where like clearly some like hot water dripped on it or an iron was set on it, or I don't know. So I emailed them being like, hey, one of my pieces of fabric is like totally damaged. Am I able to get a refund for it? And at first they were just like, no. And then I was like, really? Like, and again, I am really the last person to ever, like, oh my god, send an email to in a negative way. Like, I'm so afraid of emails and talking and businesses and authority, but like, okay, she said that because they have this system where if you spend over $29, you get free shipping, and I spent over $29, so I got the free shipping. She said that if she refunded me, I would have to pay for the shipping because it would no longer be over $29, meaning that I would owe them, saying that I would owe them $12 for shipping. Basically, the fabric was only $7 a yard, but I would have owed them $12 in shipping for some stupid reason. So she was like, yeah, we can refund you, but you'll owe us $5. Hey, I thought that was stupid and crazy, so I said no. I just stopped responding, because what the hell? And also, first she tried to say that it must have gotten crushed in transit, which, hey, doesn't make any sense because it was stacked together with 3 other pieces of identical fabric and none of them were damaged. Anyway, that concludes my complaint. I'm really happy with my fabric and I really enjoyed their website, but that was not nice. Anyway, the other fabrics for the layers of ruffle on the skirt we ordered from Spoonflower because those were our custom digitally illustrated unicorn and floral prints. Our fabric order is here. This is not my first look at it, but look how absolutely gorgeous this is. We opted for the satin because it's got that same kind of shiny, like, pow, 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 to compete with the lurex. And the print looks so wonderful. I've been so happy every time I've ordered from Spoonflower. And we made sure the scale was totally perfect. Yay! Look at that! Oh, it's so shiny! Ah! I will say, I should have included a bit more space in between the rows of the prints because there was not quite enough fabric on the bottoms for me to do a full double rolled hem. I serged it and did a single rolled hem, and even then sometimes a little slice of the print was getting lost underneath that rolled hem. And I also ended up with like way more yardage of the ruffles than I needed, so I easily could have nixed 1 or 2 of the rows of prints and gave them a bit more space to do a double rolled hem. But anyway, It looks great, it's still finished, all of the other lyrics layers have the double rolled hem, and that's just the way she goes. I marked out the rings on the base circle skirt for where all of the ruffle layers to go. I did that when it was laying flat on the ground so I could make them actual perfect measured circles, not just draping on a mannequin. And then I put it on the mannequin to pin them all in, and I took it to the machine for the big ol' stitch. The big ol' stitch. And those are the ruffles on our skirt! So fun! That's definitely like one of the most exciting parts of this cosplay. Another really cute element on the skirt, which is also on the bodice, is that Fallalu's cosplay has these two big jabot things. It's a big pink puffy bow with lace on the top and bottom, and then a 3-tiered jabot in blue, yellow, and purple. The way that these are drawn and animated in the anime is that they're just kind of slightly scalloped with a couple little like eyelet holes. So I thought I should use the same material that I've used on the skirt so that it matches, but I would really, really like to have some lace on the bottom, and I'd really, really like it to be the same color. So I looked a lot of places for different pastel lace, and I ended up ordering some of this just white stuff and dyeing it myself to match the fabric. So I'm very proud of this. I thought a more effective way to dye a bunch of little things, different colors at once, instead of filling a giant dye pot or a full stainless steel sink, I was like, these things only need to be pastel anyway, doesn't need to be like ultimate hotness staying boiled on a stove. So I used just 3 little jars, filled them up with the hottest water I could get, and that way also I could see through it and kind of get a better idea for how the colors were turning out. This took a lot of trial and error, and I definitely have some failed scraps. It was definitely not just like a 1-to-1. I was putting the blue and the purple and the yellow and the blue to make it tealy, and adding more dye and then adding more water, but I ended up coming out with a really, really, really good match. I also decided to make this harder and more complicated for no reason by cutting out all of the lace to make like little appliques. So I took my itty bitty teeny tiny scissors, and I took this around with me on trips and stuff because each one of these took 20 minutes. Okay, there were 6 of them. Okay, this, I'm pretty sure you can get like you can use like a soldering knife or something to do this, but I don't know, I don't have that, I use scissors. And yeah, just excruciatingly snipped around every little edge of the embroidery, but I think this turned out really nice. And then I actually used liquid stitch to adhere it because there's just no way I could hand sew it along the top, and you know, anyway. I think it looks good! I also went in afterwards and I stoned on the beads in the centers of a bunch of the flowers with the rhinestones that are also on the wings and a bunch of other places in the cosplay, so I think that looks super cute. Let's talk about the bows real quick. So for the big bow on the chest and the big one on the skirt, I used the exact same pattern and I used some quilt batting as well. I put in the lace on the top and bottom there. That's not in every single reference photo, but it is in this really beautiful cutie reference photo, so I was like, I want to do that. I love how the quilt batting bows look. I was gonna add in wire, but it totally didn't need it. And then they're just hand sewn in on the back with a brooch back. Speaking of brooches, also in the center of each of those big pink bows are these big golden unicorn cameo frames. I think I showed this at the end of the last cosplay studio vlog, but I got in a mold for my big cameo frame, and I also had some smaller ones already kicking around, so I made those out of clay. I originally was going to use resin because someone commented that it would have more detail, which made sense to me. However, whenever I tried to cast this out of resin, I was battling a battle against a million tiny bubbles, and I was poking around with a needle, and I was poking around with the straw, and I was trying, but it came out crazy. I did my very, very, very best, and I cured it, and it came out looking like sad ice. It was just not good. I actually got a way better and easier and less messy result out of clay, so slay. These brooches took a ton of trial and error as well. I think I did 3 full sets, and then I was like running out of clay and resin and things. The type of clay you use makes a big difference. Like Sculpey 3 versus Sculpey Primo makes a big difference. Use the good stuff. It's just way easier. It'll hold its form better. It'll show detail more easily. So I then spray painted these clay cameos gold. I also did just like way too much research trying to find the perfect gold paint. I love ladies with blog posts. If you have a question about a crafting concern, there's always a lady with a blog post. But yeah, and then for the centers, I took the same art that I did for the fabric print, and I reframed it a little bit. I made it closer up on the head. I removed the flowers and I changed the gradient in the background a little bit. It's really hard to see what this is up close in the show. You never really get a detailed look at it, but it's clearly a unicorn head that's like pastel and iridescent-y, and I think I achieved that pretty well. I just printed these out on printer paper. Whenever I do anything that has to be like a perfect scale, I'll print a bunch of them in different sizes on one sheet. That way you're not wasting too much paper, and it's pretty easy to find one that'll fit immediately. I laminate these with packing tape. I should have done this multiple times, because if you're using some sort of wet glossy stuff like we're going to, if it seeps and gets through that paper, it's just gonna soak her right up. And I tried this first with Mod Podge Dimensional Magic, which I guess that iridescent is just really not messing around, because look at all of the glitter. It's so glittery that you can't see what's going on at all. So this was my first attempt, and I used the Mod Podge Dimensional Magic, which went a little too fucking thick. You know, you can barely see the image. And I also used Sculpey 3 or Primo, whatever like the good Sculpey is. And I have a larger image of the unicorn there. So I did a new one because I was like, you can barely see her. And so I went closer in on the head because that's more accurate. I used a pale yellow, like Craft Smart Michaels brand clay, because I thought maybe if I use a pale yellow instead of like this was dark blue clay, I could do a lighter spray paint over it and maybe have it be a little bit of a brighter gold. That didn't work. You need to do the gold spray paint fully opaque, like full opacity. Otherwise it doesn't look metallic at all. And I did resin, and just something about the way that I have the paper, I thought I glued it so that it would make like a watertight seal, but like that has a bubble, this has bubbles, and it like dips down there. The clay itself, you can see that like that is more sturdy. Girl, this one really was upsetting. I was like, what the hell is going on? Her eyeball. She got a bubble on her eyeball. So I did end up actually using resin, which is a slightly more like stressful and time-sensitive experience, but I got them looking pretty good. I'm gonna take a quick little detour here just to talk about the shoes, because the shoes have one little mini jabot thing on each of them. So I basically just had to do all of these steps in like little tiny miniature version, which was precious and sweet. These bows I did not stuff with quilt batting because they're just so baby, but I did use the rhinestones on them and give them a little lovely glam. The little baby unicorn cameos are just too cute for words. And I used the other side of the lace that was this thinner pattern for the top two layers of the jabot, and then the bottom one I used the regular full-sized floral that's also on the chest and the skirt. For the shoes themselves, I did the old classic, go to a thrift store, find something that's the right fit and shape, and then take it home and paint it with leather paint. I really enjoy painting shoes with leather paint. I just love how good it can look. Whenever I discovered Angelus leather paint, I feel like I can do anything in the world. So yeah, I just painted these white, and I painted the heel and the soles pink. This also helped because the soles were really grippy when I was trying to run the dance in them, and also my heels were slipping out of the backs just a little bit. Even though these fit me, some heels just are kind of shaped like that. So, to counteract both of these things for ultimate dance-worthy shoes, I painted the bottoms of them, like the actual sole, just a little bit. I didn't do like 3 or 4 coats like I did for the rest of it because we're gonna be walking on the ground, you know? But that actually helped just to kind of dampen that stickiness just a little bit. And to keep my heels from slipping out, Very, very conveniently, in the design, she has these cute little ruffles that go around her ankles. So I just attached those to the actual shoe by cutting a little strip of pleather, stitching that down to the anklet, and then gluing that down to the heel of the shoe. This worked perfectly. These were really, really comfy for like what they are. And I could dance in them fine! Huge win! I was very prepared to just put these little anklet jabot things on like white flats for the dance and be like, ha ha ha, no one can tell, but they were fine. Thank you, Miss Comfort Plus Value Village Find. Scooting our way back up the cosplay, on the skirt there's also this big, beautiful pearl chain. This was just super fun. I love beading, I love making jewelry, and I love patterns. I love stacking things in patterns, okay? Again, in the last video, I talked about sourcing the pearls for this, which was quite a stress because when you need like a million giant pearls, yeah, the shipping's gonna be insanely expensive. I managed to work it out, and then on the ends of those 3 little chains, there are these gorgeous, dangling little iridescent glass teardrop beads, bitch. This cosplay is so intricate and so fun, and I've just really enjoyed adding in all the little flourishes. What do you say we finish up the bodice? Another really fun element of Follow Lou's Fancy Unicorn Kawar design are these petals on the waist. These are also sometimes left out in different shots of the animation, but they're so fun! And like very much obviously meant to be a part of the design. So I also used quilt batting in all of these. Double-sided lurex. These were super easy, you just gotta take the time to do it. Stitch, stitch, turn, turn, pin, pin, plop, plop. This was a really fun and satisfying part of the process. And it also just made me want to do more cosplays of like fun petal skirts, cause you know, I bet you can name some petal skirt cuties. Miss Do-Re-Mi, Miss Marine. On her design, she also has like one little pink stripe and then a little white stripe separating the bodice from the petals. So I decided to interpret this as piping and then lace. Mostly because I think it looks really, really nice, and also because it helps with structure. I also put piping on the top just for structure. It's literally on the inside. This is a big, beefy, thick, proper bodice, and it's also like off the shoulder. So I really, really, really wanted to make sure that that whole neckline area was not going anywhere. Nothing was going to be falling down or flapping around while I'm dancing. And I also had to keep in mind the wings that I was going to be harnessing on. So yeah, the bottom of the bodice got piping, lace, and petals, and the top of the bodice got hidden little inside piping, and then 2 layers of ruffled lurex. Have I mentioned yet how many double-rolled hems are in this cosplay? Have I talked about how that's like one of my least favorite things to do in sewing that I will always avoid if possible? If you look at things I make, you'll notice that like there will often be a bias tape hem, or a piped and then turned hem, or simply a bag-lined hem. I think I just got scared from doing a lot of really wonky hems growing up that I was like, I don't even want to chance it. But this cosplay was like exposure therapy for rolled hems, okay? Endless. Endless. I could do the math if I wanted, but like, holy shit. Anyway, I'm really, really proud of how they all turned out. They all look so solid and professional. Oh my god, if baby Pixie could see me now. Especially these ones up on the neckline are just like, literally, like, you can't tell me anything. Oh my god, the actual dress is, like, done now! All I had left to do was installing the zippers. Installing the zippers on both the bodice and the skirt were, like, no small feat for this, because I had to line up all of those 6 layers of ruffles in the back. This is where a stitch in time saves 9. This is where accurate measuring makes accurate sewing. Like, holy shit. The little shortcuts you take 2 months ago will come to bite you here. But no, look at how beautiful. Look at how she lines up. And the zipper, oh, where'd she go? It was just a little bit hard to install on the bodice because there was so many, like, piping and ruffle and petal and lace, just a lot of like crap going on. But you know, you just have to have strong fingers and wrestle it in there and stitch it down real good. We are really in the home stretch now. There's just a couple of little accessory things left to do. There's really not much to write home about the gloves. You trace your hand like a turkey. I did have to do a couple of tests on this because I was like stitching too close to the line and couldn't fit my friggin' fingers through. Or I didn't use a stretchy enough material and I also couldn't fit my friggin' fingers through. But I went to the store and I picked up some stretchy jersey stuff and I traced the turkey and I did real good. Thank you, teacher. Happy Thanksgiving. I decided to leave the pink ruffle as like a separate wristlet thing so that I could take off my gloves at the con and still have a little bit of a wrist accessory. This material does not allow for like iPhone usage. I've gotten lucky in the past where I don't know what material I used, but I was able to like text through the gloves. Not these ones. I was swiping with my nose. So I'm really glad I did that. I ended up just wearing the wristlets for most of the day, just for like a sensory thing. But the gloves are cute and it looks great together. Yay! The very final thing to tackle on this cosplay are the headphones and kind of wing head accessory situation. So again, Falaloo is a vocal doll, meaning kind of pre-Para's version of a Vocaloid. So she has these really beautiful, intricate headphones that she keeps on all of the time. And to make these, I decided I would pick up one of those like detachable plastic sphere things, like an ornament you can put stuff in. I just made sure it was the right diameter, and my original plan was to spray these with the same gold spray paint that I got for the cameo molds. However, this turned out looking really weird. Am I crazy, or is this like paper bag brown? I was not into it, especially up against all of the other gold things we had going on. It was like, that's not gold. So I ended up using a little bit of this gold stretch fabric. Super metallic. You see a lot of other cosplayers and costume makers wrap props and things with shiny fabric to give it that metallic look. And that's exactly what I did. I just cut a circle, I sewed a little basting stitch around it, and the trick with this is just that you gotta yank it real tight. I pulled that basting stitch as best as I could, I glued it down on the inside, and even then there were still a couple of little wrinkles, but I was able to go in with little strips of duct tape and smooth them out. Her headphones also have this pink strip, which I ended up also just doing with fabric. And all of the details that are on top of that were done with gem tack. I used the same beautiful little pink heart cabochons lined with pearls for the centers. I made treble clefs out of clay, which turned out like really cute. And I also added a couple little extra blue gems on there just for pizzazz. Okay, I added a lot of extra gems on here for pizzazz, but can you blame me? And doesn't it look cute? I was a little bit nervous about this, but I just kind of followed my logic brain and I used Scotch tape to keep those pieces like attached to the circle as they dried. So we're trying to glue things to a round dome, you know? This could be a slippy, slidey nightmare, but Scotch tape is there for me. I ended up attaching these to a gold headband, which I also covered with that same metallic gold fabric. And I'm not gonna lie, these headphones were one of my biggest like sensory concerns for being at the con. I already have issues with like big crowds and like friends from many years ago coming up and saying hi and me having memory issues or like not waving at people or people referring to me as names that I don't recognize or don't respond to. So I thought having like two big domes on my ears so I can't hear very well in a convention where there's going to be people like around me 360 talking, maybe that will make me go insane. So I thought that I would attach these via snaps. I forget the username of this cosplay YouTuber, but they said in their most recent video that these big snaps in the drag scene, wherever they're from, these big snaps are called Whopper Poppers. Whopper Poppers! So I slapped some friggin' Whopper Poppers on there, but I ended up not using them. For the wings, I did originally think I might crochet these wings like I did the wings in the back. I mapped out a pattern for them and I mocked up the first one and I just thought it looked really bad. I was like, this on my head? Like, I don't know about this on my head. The wings on the back look like wings, okay? This on my head It's like, is it a snowflake and is she okay? I don't know. So I ended up just using some EVA foam. I have a bunch of this stuff lying around. I cut it super duper duper carefully to try and get a nice smooth edge. That's the one thing with EVA foam is like after you cut it, you can't really sand that down or like use heat to melt it smooth. Like you kind of just have to cut it smooth and like Bob's your uncle. But yeah, these were nice and stiff also, so they'd stick up straight on my noggin. And I used some of those lovely little rhinestones as well to kind of mark out like the feather shapes. And hey, this is the only thing in the entire cosplay that is hot glued. I did a test first and I was like, this is foam attaching to jersey spandex. I think these two things are like absorbent and porous enough. And yeah, it stuck real good. So wham bam. I'm not gonna end the video with wham bam. So with that, our head accessory and also our entire cosplay is finished. Thank you so much for watching. This has been my Follow cosplay work studio series. What am I calling it? It has been really fun to keep you guys up to date with my progress on this as it's been going. I know in the past, a lot of the time, I will work on a cosplay like completely behind the scenes and sometimes not even share what character it is until I'm done. And I think this was a way more fun and motivating experience. And it's been really great to also get like feedback in real time and hear your guys' ideas and just the overall hype of it all. So thank you so much for following along. And the next video should be our actual con vlog. So if you want to see me competing in this, and with hopefully not having a breakdown on the floor, please look forward to that video. See the dress in action, strutting around, dancing around. And yeah, I will stop talking your ear off. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the next video, which is not this one, because this one is over. Bye!